Watching that piece, it gives you goosebumps, kind of puts that feeling in your stomach, and we're happy now to welcome in Jimmie Johnson, the NASCAR RaceHub. Jimmie, thank you for making some time.
Thank you. This is a special day, and the emotions are real and flying in like crazy right now.
What do you anticipate, Jimmie, that your emotions will be when you're out on track making those pace laps, anticipating the green flag for the final time?
You know, my career so far, whenever the helmet goes on, just flash into race mode, the competition kicks in, and you block everything out. So with the amount of emotions flowing in right now, I'm hopeful that's the case, and it doesn't take long to get into the racing groove and get to work out there and try to get this Ally Chevrolet to victory lane.
So, Jimmie, when the fan looks back at Jimmie Johnson's NASCAR career, aside from the wins, aside from the 7 championships, what do you want them to remember about Jimmie Johnson? What do you want them to say about you? Call it your NASCAR legacy.
Well, I hope people recognize the path that it took for me to get here. You know, I've been very fortunate in my career to have Chevrolet behind me and these great opportunities that came along, but I really grew up in humble beginnings, and you know, I guess dreaming big enough is a big part of my journey, and I would encourage others to do the same, and hopefully, you know, my humble beginnings inspire others, and others, you know, can have that hope and can dream big enough and chase their dreams, and who knows, you might end up here as a 7-time Cup champion.
Jimmie, I want to share a story with you. When I was getting ready to move to Charlotte 18 years ago, you were the guy that showed me around. You showed me where you thought a good area to live would be, where to eat, where to hang out. And in those days that I was at your house, we ended up on your boat dock at like 2 a.m. drinking some beers. And I remember you and I just reminiscing about how lucky we were to have made it to this point in our driving career. I was still in the Xfinity Series, and I think you only had a couple of Cup Series wins at the time. And as I've watched your success over the years, I always think back to that moment and how humble you were then and still how humble you are now. The reason I bring that story up is that over the past couple of weeks, I've seen everyone share their Jimmie Johnson story and what you've meant to NASCAR. And I'm just curious, what's NASCAR meant to you?
Well, that's a big question, and I guess the simple answer would be family. You know, to spend so much time in this industry and to grow so much as an individual and as a person, you know, this be my professional space. You know, those two worlds really collide when you spend 20+ years somewhere, and to be able to do that in this family and to make mistakes along the way, to have success, to have failure, you know, this just feels like home, and it is such a big family. And to add just one piece of that dock story, I was on the lake recently with my family and took them by the cove, and it's changed a little bit since then. But I looked at that dock and I remembered sitting there with you till the wee hours of the morning, telling our you know, each other what our big dreams would be, and I shared that story with my family. So it's great you brought that back up.
Jimmie, you mentioned your humble beginnings, and that's certainly how it all started for you. But could you have ever imagined, and was there ever a time you doubted that the journey would turn out the way it has?
Oh, tons of doubt along the way. I mean, racing is not a forgiving sport to be in or profession. So the journey along the way and all the opportunities that I thought had passed me by, you know, I was very worried about and stressed about. But as it turns out, the right situation was just waiting there for me. And, you know, once I was able to have this opportunity at Hendrick Motorsports, coupled with Chad Knaus, you know, off we went. So just a crazy journey, and there's no chance I could have dreamed this big. There's just no chance.
Well, Jimmie, you're the kind of guy that if someone says something bad about you, we all believe it's just not true, because there is nothing bad to say about the way you handle yourself. Classy from day one. We thank you for the humility with which you've carried yourself, and we thank you for being on NASCAR RaceHub with us today. Good luck in the race at Phoenix.
Man, I really appreciate it, and thank you, everybody, including you three. You guys have been great friends over the years, and I know I'm not going to be here full time, but my heart's always with the sport, and I really appreciate the friendships.
Cool. We look forward to watching Jimmie race later today at Phoenix, his final start as a full-time driver, and there is his race car. And when you look at Jimmie Johnson and the career that he has put together, today's interview kind of embodies what he's all about, Larry.
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about Jimmie Johnson for hours, but two things that jumps out at me about things that he's been accomplished, some of his accolades. Slide those wins and championships aside. I know they were a big deal, but he was Motorsports Driver of the Year 5 times. That's all of motorsports. That's not just NASCAR. But to me, one, it was big for Jimmie Johnson. It was big for NASCAR. In 2009, he was awarded the Associated Press Athlete of the Year in the United States, the first race car driver to ever receive that award. And to me, that made the statement of something I've been promoting for years. Our drivers are athletes. To me, that was big for Jimmie, and it was big for NASCAR.
You know, this is such an emotional week, day for Jimmie Johnson. I think back to those hours leading up to the race, and you go through the memories of, like, this is my last driver's meeting. It's going to be his last driver introduction. Jamie Little reported that he was going to be escorted from the driver's stage to his car. That's going to be kind of an emotional time for him to share with his family. And I think back to the pace laps at Homestead for me. I broke down crying because I'm knowing that's going to be my last race and what all of this meant to me. And thankfully, our colleague, Regan Smith, leaked oil all the way around the racetrack, and we had like 4 or 5 laps to pick it up, and I could gather myself. But what a career he's had, and I can't wait to hear his response afterwards when you hear all his emotions he had.
For more great NASCAR on Fox content, subscribe to our channel. It's somewhere right around here.